Hello dear students, a very warm welcome to all of you. Myself Patel Pravada from PARAMGURU PATHSHALA English Medium School, SARSA. Today in this video I am going to discuss with you the third chapter from Standard 7 Science, that is Fiber to Fabric. Students, in this video I am going to touch numbers of topic, and the topics are animal fiber, wool and silk, animals that yield wool, from fiber to wool, processing fiber into wool, life history of silk moth, and from cocoon to silk. So let's start. Students, in standard 6 we have learned about fiber. We know that fibers are the thinner strand from where yarn means thread are made up, and later on from the thread we get fabric means piece of cloth. We also know about cotton and jute, the plant from where fiber are collected to make thread, and later on from the thread fabric. Cotton and jute are the natural fiber as well as plant fiber. Remember, plant fiber, and it is also a natural fiber. In this chapter we are going to learn wool and silk, which is a animal fiber and also a natural fiber. We obtain wool from the flesh means hair of sheep or yak, and we get silk fibers from the cocoons of silk moth. But how we get this wool and silk, let's understand one by one. First, we are going to learn how we get wool, so let's begin. Students, wool comes from sheep other than goat, yak and some other animals. Students, these hair are very essential for wool yielding animals, as hair trap a lot of air, and we know that air is poor conductor of heat. So hair keeps this animal warm. So this hair is very important for them. Students, the hairy skin of this sheep has two types. There are two types of hair of them. The one first is coarse beard hair, and the second one is the fine soft under hair, which is close to the skin. The fine hair provide the fibers for making wool. So the skin touching fine hair is the sources of wool. Students, let's know one term, that is selective breeding. Students, some breeds of sheep possess only fine under hair. Their parents are specially chosen. They are chosen specially to give birth to sheep which have only soft under hair. This process of selecting parents for obtaining special character in their offspring. Offspring means new ones, such as soft under hair in sheep, is termed selective breeding. Animals that yield wool. Students, there are several breeds of sheep are found in different parts of our country, India. Just like Yakul is common in Tibet and Ladakh, mohair wool is obtained from Angora goats, which is found in Jammu and Kashmir. Do you know, students, wool is also obtained from goat hair, and the Kashmiri goat's hair is soft and it is used to make fine shawl called pashmina shawls. The pashmina shawl, which is made by the fiber which is get from the goat. The fur means the hair of camel is also used as wool. Llama and alpaca are found in South Africa, also yield wool. Our next term is from fibers to wool. Students, do you know that how animal hair converted into wool? Let's understand. For obtaining wool, first sheep are reared. For obtaining fibers to make its yarn, wool yarn, first sheep are reared. Then cut their hair, and the hair is proceeded into wool by several steps. So first we have to know the rearing and breeding of sheep. Students, rearing of sheep means to look after the sheep by providing them food, shelter and health care. In India, sheep are reared in this hilly region like Jammu Kashmir, Himachal Pradesh, Uttarakhand, Arunachal Pradesh and Sikkim. Also Haryana, Punjab, Rajasthan, the plains areas are also reared sheep. Sheep are herbivorous animal, and apart from grazing, sheep are also provided pulses, corn, jowar, oil cake and mineral. Students, the person who looks after the sheep is called shepherd. So the person who looks after the sheep, providing food and shelter and take care of them, they are called shepherd. Students, there are certain breeds of sheep which have thick coat of hair on their body, from which we yield good qualities of wool in a large quantities. These good yielding wool sheep are called selective breed. In animal, breeding is done to obtain animals with a desirable characteristic. The two individuals of desirable characters are selected as parents. These two parents then crossed to get new breed of the animal which have desirable characteristic. The new one have desirable characteristic of both the parents. This is called selective breeding, which is we talked earlier. So selective breeding is very important to rearing of sheep. It is a very important step. The some Indian breeds of sheep, the quality of wool and the names of states are given in the table. You can see the table which is provide you the knowledge about some Indian breeds of sheep. You can take a look of this slide. Now students, our next step is processing fiber into wool. After rearing of sheep, what is after the step? Once the reared sheep have developed a of hair, it is shaved. The next step is to shave the hair off for getting wool. For getting wool from sheep, it involves various steps. Let us study each step one by one. Step 1 is shearing. The process of removing hair from the body of sheep is called shearing. It is done by machine or with a large laser. Remember students, shearing or removing hair does not hurt the sheep because the uppermost layer of the skin of sheep is dead. It is done in early summer so they do not feel the heat of summer, and before winter the hair grow again and protect them from cold. Now next step is scoring. The process of washing of the flesh means hair of sheep to remove dust, dirt, sweat, grease is called scoring. It is done by manually, but nowadays it is done by machine also. The hair is cleaned by soap or detergent and lot of water in a tank. By this the hair is cleaned up. The third step, which is the next step, is sorting. The process of separating the long fine quality flesh means hair from the remaining inferior quality or broken pieces is called sorting. Only the flesh of long fine quality is sent to the factory for the further processes. Next is step 4, that is combing. The process of removing the birds from the flesh is called combing. In this step, fibers are straightened. The next step is fifth number, dyeing. The natural flesh of sheep is black, brown or white in color. The fibers obtained after combing are dyed in various color. The last step is spinning, which is the step 6. The straightened fiber are spun or twisted together to make a yarn. The wool yarn is either knitted or woven. The longer fibers are made into wool for sweater and the shorter fiber are spun and woven into woolen clothes. Students, to understand better, take a look of the next slide, which is an image of processing of wool. Our next point is silk. Students, we know that silk is a fine, strong, soft and shining fiber obtained from silkworm. Silk is made up of protein and it is the strongest natural fiber. As it is an animal protein, when it is burnt, it gives a smell of burning. It gives smell like a burning hair when it is burnt. Basically, silk fiber are also converted into silk yarn or thread. Silk yarn or thread, which is later on used for making silk cloth, just like sari or dresses. Students, the rearing of silkworm for obtaining silk is called sericulture. I repeat myself, what is sericulture? The rearing of silkworm. The rearing of silkworm for obtaining silk is called sericulture. Students, before we discuss the process of obtaining silk, let us study the life cycle of the silk moth. As we know the rearing of sheep, we have to also learn the life cycle of silk moth. So, in the first stage, the female silk moth lays eggs on the leaves of a tree called mulberry tree. The worm-like larva called caterpillar or silkworm hatch out from eggs in 2 weeks time. Within 2 weeks, the silkworm feed on the leaves of mulberry tree and grow bigger in size. During the larva stage, the silkworms shed their skin 4 times while they grow. Silk is found in liquid form in the two gland in the silk moth's head. Now, the silkworm is ready to enter the next stage of its development called pupa. Each silkworm begins spinning a cocoon by moving its head in the same pattern as that of number 8. During this movement of head, the silkworm secretes silk in liquid form through the tiny opening in its head. Liquid silk is coated in sericin, which solidify on contact with the air and become silk fiber. Within 2 to 3 days, the silkworm converts itself completely with silk fiber. The silky covering spun by the silkworm for its protection is called cocoon. You can take a look of the figure. The cocoon is made by the silkworm to protect its development as pupa. When the pupa develops fully to form an adult silk moth, then the cocoon splits up and a beautiful silk moth comes out. The adult silk moth lives only for a few days. Remember that they can live for a few days only. So, it is the life cycle of the silk moth. Then when the life cycle of silk moth completed, the cocoon is collected. Rearing of silkworm. For obtaining silk, silk moths are reared and their cocoons are collected to get silk thread. Rearing of silkworms means to look after the silkworm by providing them proper food, shelter, and of course the health care. In a silk farm, female silk moths are kept in separated lines bag which are carefully disinfected. Each female silk moth lays 200 to 500 eggs at a time. The eggs are kept in perforated cardboard boxes on bamboo trays under hygienic condition, suitable temperature and humidity. The eggs are warmed to a suitable temperature in an incubator. What is incubator? An electrically warmed box inside which a substance can be kept at a desired temperature. It is called incubator. And in this incubator, the eggs are warmed to a suitable temperature for the larva to hatch from eggs. So in the incubator, the eggs are hatched. A perforated sheet of paper is placed over the hatching box or tray and chopped mulberry leaves are spread over it. When the larva means silkworms, otherwise we can say caterpillar, hatch out from the eggs, they feed on mulberry leaves. So the caterpillars feed on mulberry leaves when they came out from the egg. They eat day and night and increase enormously in size. After 25 to 30 days, the silkworms stop eating. After 25 to 30 days, silkworms stop eating and move to a tiny chamber of bamboo in the tray to spin cocoons. Small racks or twins are provided in the trays to which cocoons get attached. During the period of spinning its cocoon, a silkworm is transformed into pupa. It is transformed into pupa. A silkworm completes its cocoon, which is about 4 centimeters long, in about 5 days by producing approximately 600 to 1200 meter of thin silk fiber. A thin silk fiber. Now, our next step is from cocoon to silk. After getting cocoon, what is to be done? So students, for obtaining silk we have separate steps to get silk. First is boiling. The cocoons are first boiled in hot water or treated in oven to kill the larvae inside. If the larvae are not killed and allowed to grow, they will break the cocoon. That's why it is boiled. This will reduce the length of silk fiber. If they break down the cocoon, the length of silk fiber reduces. So it is necessary to boil the cocoons to kill the larva inside it. The hot water softens the silk gum sericin so as to allow the unwinding of silk fiber as one continuous thread. The next step is reeling. The process of taking out threads from the cocoon for use as silk is called reeling the silk. Reeling is done in special machine which unwind the threads or fibers of silk from the cocoons. The fiber of cocoon are too fine and delicate to handle, so many of them are reeled together to yield a stronger thread called raw silk. The damaged or waste cocoons are used to produce an inferior quality of silk called spun silk. It is called spun silk. Now next point is third point, throwing. The raw silk is twisted to produce thrown silk. The process is called throwing. This prevents the silk from splitting into individual fiber. Now last point is dyeing. After getting silk, thrown silk is then dyed for making colored fabric. To make colorful fabric. The dyed silk fibers are then spun into silk thread. It is converted then silk thread. The silk fiber which is colored after dyeing, then it is converted into thread, which are then after woven into varieties of silk clothes by weavers. So it is the process how to get silk from silkworm. So students, here we finish our third chapter, which is fibers to fabric from standard 7 science. In this chapter we learn that how to rear sheeps for wool. Then we know that how to rear silkworm for silk. So I hope you understand. So here we finish our chapter. Thank you.